Welcome back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you're new here, I love talking all things reality TV, and today we are talking about Shark Tank Season 16, Episode 3. And if you like this sort of content, Shark Tank, I also recap other reality shows, make sure to check out the channel, maybe subscribe. This is my third year making Shark Tank content, which is just mind-blowing to me. So if this is your first time seeing me, hello. I, every Friday, post a recap of the previous week's episode of Shark Tank. When Shark Tank's not on, I'll recap some other shows. I'm looking into maybe trying to do some bonus episodes this year while Shark Tank is going, because it's hard holding in all my other thoughts while Shark Tank is going. So join the channel. It's a fun time over here. I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers by next year. So let's see if we can make that happen. Anyway, and once again this week, we are joined by the lovely Max Maxwell, so it's going to be a good one. Our sharks for the episode are Damon, Kevin, Lori, Mark, and returning guest shark Kendra Scott, owner and founder of Kendra Scott Jewelry. Our first pitch of the night is Yardsale. Kelly and Christina walked into the tank looking for $200,000 for 10% of their new and improved ski poles.
Why the name Yardsale?
Okay, haven't you ever had a yard sale on the mountain?
Here's what they look like. Their biggest thing about them is that they're magnetic, so they stick together, making them easier to transport. On top of that, they're modular, so you can take pieces of them off and replace them for different pieces, so you can customize them to the color of your liking. First up, let's talk about the costing. It cost them $30 to make, $42 completely landed and at their place, and they retail it for $139. They mostly sell online, but they're also in a few different specialty shops, and so far they've only been in business 6 months. Their very first month of sales, they made $100,000, and for the fiscal year that they're currently in, they've made $220,000. They're forecasting the end of their year, they'll be at $300,000. I'm specifically saying their year because their company operates on not a January to December fiscal model. So just to be clear, it's not, the year's going to end for them before it ends. And I just feel like that's important because they are a ski company. It makes sense. Next fiscal year, they're projecting to make $2.1 million. Part of this is because they've started to launch in other retail spaces like REI. The main number we're missing from all this, which if you've seen my videos before, you'll know I'm going to complain about, is profitability. No idea if they're profitable or not. Literally no idea. I would, again, just making an assumption based off them only being in business 6 months and some other stuff about things they were working on, I would assume no. I could be wrong, though. I would love to be wrong. I always hope I'm wrong about that, but just with how early it is, I'm going to go probably not. One of the first questions the sharks ask is from Kevin, who wonders what the inventory situation is, mostly saying that it's most likely a nightmare because skis have to come in all these different sizes, and then on top of that, they have all these different colors, and they let us know that right now, their kids' skis that they sell have a way to adjust the height on them, and they're planning to do the same thing for their adult skis to kind of help limit that. Then there's the thing about the name. So multiple of the sharks are not skiers. I was kind of sad for them that Barbara wasn't on, because Barbara and Kevin are kind of our big skiers. They're who I think about when it comes to skiing. Maybe Robert skis. It doesn't matter. Anyway, none of the sharks understood the name. Luckily, they had Kendra Scott there, who's apparently a huge skier, and lets us know, for us non-skiers, that a yard sale is pretty much when you wipe out on the mountain. And Lori, learning this, decides she absolutely hates the name. She hates the idea that it's connected to a negative connotation, and she doesn't feel like that really aligns with the idea of having premium ski poles. On top of that, she's just not a skier, and she always says she wants to be passionate about what she's promoting and what she's investing in, and for all those reasons, she's out. Then we have Damon, on the other hand, who absolutely disagrees. He talks about his own company, FUBU, and that people didn't understand the name at first either, but ultimately it was a conversation starter that got people talking about his brand, and the entrepreneurs say that their name actually is what's helped them get in front of different skiers and grab their attention. And while Damon does have all these nice things to say about the name, there is a problem.
I'm part of the snowboarder community, and we hate you guys. So I don't know. I just don't like skiing.
And while he thinks it's a great product, ultimately he has to go out. And then there's Mark.
I've never skied once in my entire life,
Sure.
and I have no intention of starting. So for those reasons, I'm out.
But all hope is not lost. We still have Kendra and Kevin out there, both resident Shark Tank skiers. Kendra loves everything, but points out they've only been in business for 6 months, and putting a $2 million valuation on the company is concerning. There's a really big high risk, but they say they've actually kept that in mind, and they have kind of a back pocket deal they've been holding on to, which is a royalty. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge to Kevin. I personally think this was a great move from them because in my heart of hearts, I feel like they did their homework to know that A, Kevin is a skier, and then B, the thing that everybody knows, he loves royalties. I feel like they knew that coming in, and if they did, good for them. Then they decide to make an offer to Kevin, and that was the way they worded it. I assume, though, they were also open to Kendra, even from the beginning, but I did think it was kind of weird to immediately hone in on him when she hadn't gone out. It might have just been a weird editing thing, but anyway, they decide to offer $200,000 for 5% with a royalty of $3 a unit, until they're paid back the $200,000. And while usually a royalty deal like that would immediately perk Kevin up, he'd be ready to go, that's actually not what he's interested in here. He is interested in the product, but he wants to do the $200,000 for 20%. His only little caveat type thing is he wants to get distributions when they're getting distributions. He wants a big stake in it and to make money when they make money. Then side note, beef. Mark says that this is the first time ever that a company has offered Kevin a royalty, and I would bet, I don't have any money to bet. I'm not a shark. I am almost positive, though, that is not true. I'm almost positive it happened, like, last season or maybe the season before, and maybe it wasn't, like, set up in this exact way, because, again, with editing, I don't know the way it was presented in, but I remember like a couple companies before have been like, well, Kevin, what about a royalty? I'd be willing to do a royalty with you. And I can even remember one that I can't remember which person it was though. Maybe Editing Morgan will come in here if I can figure out who it is. Honestly, I'm going to be super real with y'all. I'm about to level with y'all. I'm filming this today on November 6th, the day after the election. I'm just happy I'm reading these notes to y'all. So I can't take the time to look into who it was. But I am almost positive that there was a company that did this exact same thing in the past, like, at least, I think it was within, like, 3 seasons ago. They did this exact same thing. They came in with one offer, and then midway through, they were like, Kevin, like, specifically to Kevin, too. That's the rant I went on. Editing Morgan may come in here and fix some of this. I hate when the sharks are like, this is the first time this has happened. This is the first time this has happened. When it's not. They love to do that. They love to forget, but I don't forget. I mean, I do kind of forget because I don't know who it was, but the point stands. Editing Morgan here. It was bothering me so much that I went through all my notes from season 15 because my season 14 notes are like pretty much non-existent, and I was totally right. Number 1, we have Fly with Wine from last season, episode 9. They threw out the idea specifically to Kevin to do a royalty offer. They didn't have a number and like the exact like ready to go-ness that these people had, but they said to Kevin, what about a royalty deal? We also had 2 others, Flora from last season, episode 14, threw out the idea. Technically it was to Lori, not to Kevin, but they did throw out the idea of a royalty. And lastly, Fila Manila also suggested doing a royalty deal. They were offering it directly to Daniel, but did say that they were open to any of the sharks. He even had this like whole thing where he had a golden ticket that was playing on Lori's golden ticket thing that she used to do. If you know, you know. I also have a clip where they were making a joke that he showed it to everyone but Kevin, but I think they were just kidding, I think. And yeah, the main point of all this was I was right, because it was driving me crazy and I had to know. I think sometimes the sharks just forget because they see stuff all day, every day, But it's like, editors, you know better. Don't put that clip in. This isn't the first time it's happened. And again, maybe it's the first time it was like set up this exact way. I don't know. I'm just saying. Anyway, we can move on now. I'm sorry for this rant. Okay, time to get back on track. Then we have Kendra come in doing what I honestly thought Kevin was going to do, which is say she'll do the $200,000 for 20%, but she also wants that $3 royalty until she recoups her $200,000 investment. But Kevin is not playing around this season. I would love to speculate that he saw my recap video of last season saying that his percentage of offers he made versus deals he actually closed is very, very bad. The man makes a lot of offers and does not close a lot of deals. So maybe he's trying to fix his ratio for me. That's what I would like to delusionally pretend anyway. And he says he'll lower his equity down to 15%. The catch is, though, he wants that $3 royalty until he's paid back double his investment, aka $400,000. But these guys aren't playing either, and honestly, it's very clear they know their numbers. They came in to make a deal, and I very much respect it. They counter Kevin $200,000 for 8%, but increase the royalty to $5 a unit until he recoups $300,000. And continuing to surprise me, Kevin says he'll go from 15% to 10%, but he's not budging on the idea of needing to double his investment. The entrepreneurs and Kevin go back and forth about this for a while, but it becomes clear that he's not going to do the alternative they've presented. So they ask Kendra, would you be willing to do the $200,000 for 8% with a $5 royalty until you're paid back $300,000? And Kendra is interested, but she says she'd need the equity to be higher at 10%. And like I said, negotiations are happening. They know their numbers. Nobody is playing around in this situation. And they say they'd be willing to up the equity if she lowers her return. So instead of recouping $300,000, recouping $250,000. But Kendra does not want to budge.
Oh my God, $50,000.
Will you up the cash?
Come on.
They are wanting to make a deal, though. So they ask if she'll do $250,000 as the investment instead of $200,000. And they make themselves a deal with Kendra for $250,000 for 10% equity and a $5 royalty until she's paid back $300,000.
You skiers deserve each other.
Final thoughts to start out. I really liked them. I liked that it was, again, I'm always going to be a big proponent of just like the simple products that solve some sort of a problem. Yada, yada, yada. Big fan of those. I also am a huge fan of how well they knew their numbers. And it was very clear that they not only knew their numbers, but wanted to make a deal. Like, they had clearly talked beforehand about what things they would do in order to make a deal. Versus, I feel like a lot of people come on the shows nowadays and you'll see it. And it's like, they come in wanting $500,000 for 5% and they're not willing to budge. And it's like, why are you here? This is a negotiation show, like what do you expect? And it gets really tiring, so it was really refreshing to see this kind of back and forth, and I loved Kendra for it. I've been a Kendra hater in the past. I always kind of think she's a little boring, but honestly, this was a good first showing from her, so, I may be taking back the Kendra hate. Like, maybe she can be redeemed as a good guest shark. We'll see. Time will tell. As far as the product itself goes, I am not a skier. I've never seen a mountain. I have not snowboarded. I've barely been around snow, if we're gonna be really honest. The only skiing I've ever done is on the water in a lake, like God intended, in my personal opinion. I'm just kidding. I'm just being annoying. But just on a serious note, like I said, I just don't know anything about skiing. As far as the price goes, they said they were in the upper middle range for ski poles. I decided to go on REI's website since they're a big general outdoor supplier, and then also they're going to be in REI soon, so I was looking at what their competition was, and it did seem like it was that price range, but, I have no idea if this is a better ski pole or not, like, based off the materials it is. Like, I don't know what skiers are looking for in ski poles. So if you ski or do any sports, I'd definitely love to hear from y'all down below, because I'm sorry, I can't give a lot of opinions. And I couldn't find a lot of reviews that weren't just like from their website and stuff like that. I tried to even go on skiing Reddit like I was the other week. But because of the word yard sale being just like a popular slang term, I was struggling to find just random general reviews. So, would love to hear from y'all. All I can really comment on is the pitch, which I thought was a good one. Thought it was a great way to start the episode out. Our second pitch of the night is Kobeesco. Kobee walked into the tank looking for $300,000 for 6% of his natural and sustainable personal care products. Here it is. His products are made from beeswax. His main product was the lip balm, but he's since expanded into things like scrubs and salves and all those personal care products. Hello, it is Editing Morgan in real life. Please ignore the everything. I had to come to you here in person because as I was sitting here editing the video, I was looking at the packaging some more and I was like, I really remember getting some lip balms that came in a super similar package in like a gift bag or something like that. And I was like, surely it's not the same company though. So I went and dug through my stuff in my bathroom and lo and behold, 2 Kobeesco's lip balms. I have no idea how old these are, so I really am not going to try them. I'm surprised I even still had them. But how funny is that this was just like sitting in my bathroom this whole time? Just hilarious. And I'm also so surprised I remembered, but weird, funny coincidences in the world. Anyway, as I said in the beginning, his main focus is on the idea that it's natural and sustainable. The product is only made from 4 ingredients: beeswax, coconut oil, sunflower seeds, and mango butter, and then his packaging is all compostable. For the costings, we use the individual little lip balms he sells. It cost him 26 cents to make, and they retail for $5. Then, once again, like I was saying earlier, the lip balm is the main thing. We find out it's 75% of his sales, and then the rest is just the other personal care products. We also get to learn some other fun numbers, which is their average order is $32, their return on ad spend is 2.5 to 3%, and their customer acquisition cost is between $14 and $15. He sells this completely online. I think they started in 2021. This is just me basing it off of the sales ramp he gave us, which first, he talks about his numbers he was getting when he was just kind of randomly selling it. He was like, I would get $3,000 a day and $10,000 a day. Then he says his first year, I think that's what he was trying to get at. His first year of like actually selling it was $30,000. Then the second year was $200,000. Last year, they did $864,000. And year to date, they're at $1.5 million and projecting to end the year somewhere between $3.5 and $4 million. And we have a profitable company! Bow, 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 bow! Number 1, the company started with just a $200 loan from his mom, and now this year, they're planning to net between $700,000 and $800,000 off the $3.5 to $4 million. So, impressive. Obviously, sales numbers fantastic, and the giant jump that y'all heard of 30,000 to 200,000 of course makes Lori wonder what happened there. And he says, pretty much being, young and Gen Z, he figured out how to do Facebook ads and blow it up on TikTok, and that's been a main contributor to their success. But it is not all rainbows and butterflies. Unfortunately, we have our first shark go out, which is Kendra. She says she loves the product and is going to be a customer, but this is just completely out of her wheelhouse, and she is out. Then we have Mark asking the classic Shark Tank question of what are you needing from a shark? And he says the biggest thing he needs help with is guidance, especially because he really sees this working best moving to retail, being one of those things you grab at the checkout, that sort of stuff, and he needs help with distribution and figuring out that new path. Kevin hears that and is immediately like, yep, that's something I can help you with. And he likes the business, so he decides to make an offer of $300,000 for 20%. Then we have Lori, who's really worried about pivoting into retail. She points out that there's a lot of competition, especially competition with names that are similar and relate to bees and nature. Then she gives us her favorite line of, this is going to be a great online business for you. But it's not investable for her, so she is out. Mark is in the same boat as other sharks, saying he doesn't really see how he'll be able to add any value to the company and thinks Kobee will continue to crush it, but Unfortunately, he is out. Then we have Damon, who loves it because it reminds him a lot of his own story with his own mom helping him out, getting his business started when he needed it. And he really wants to invest in the business of Kobee, but ultimately he doesn't want to be in the lip balm business, so he's out. And for the first time this season, but definitely not the first time in the tank, all roads have led back to Mr. Wonderful. However, Kobee doesn't love the idea of Kevin taking 20%. He also doesn't like that it knocks the valuation down to $1.5 million when they're projecting $4 million in sales, and their net on that is going to be $700,000 to $800,000, which is half of what Mr. Wonderful is valuing at. So the math isn't mathin' for Kobee. He's not super about it. However, Mr. Wonderful is staying firm at 20%. He feels like he can add a lot of value to the company with his distributors and their buying power. On top of all that, he doesn't want Kobee to just focus on retail. Mr. Wonderful says he's proven that he can engage people in this direct marketing and that people are willing to buy it. So Mr. Wonderful wants to work with him on increasing his return on ad spend to see if they can continue to put fuel on that fire. Kobee asks if he'd even consider going down to 10%, which Kevin immediately shuts down, and neither of them are budging.
I'm not gonna give up 20% of my company today.
What would you give up?
I'd be willing to take more money for a higher.
Kevin then agrees to meet in the middle with Kobee at 15%, and Kobee still isn't sure, which gives us another fantastic Mr. Wonderful line.
It should be painful, Kobee.
I know.
Those are great deals, because I'm suffering like an animal right now about the 5% I just gave.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, it was more than Kobee was willing to give away, and he turns down Kevin's deal and leaves the Shark Tank without a deal. Starting off, this pitch really reminded me of the company See the Way I See from season 14. It was another younger entrepreneur, clothing line that she kind of blown up on TikTok, and I feel like they're very similar, but did not receive similar feedback from the Sharks, which I thought was kind of weird, and could be editing, could be things we didn't see. But that was definitely weird to me because I was just sitting there I just feel like these are really similar and I don't feel like they're being treated in similar ways at all. And with that company, all the Sharks were pretty much like, you're doing great. We will just mess it up. You keep doing what you're doing. You got this. And not to pull a Lori, but I also feel that way with this one. I feel like if he just keeps going, he'll be able to figure it out. And I know that he's wanting help with getting into retail, but I don't even know if that's necessarily the right path. I'm no expert on these kinds of things, but I really do feel like Lori said, this could be a really good business for him if he just keeps going down the path he is currently going down. The only thing that really shocked me with this pitch was that Damon didn't make an offer, because Damon historically loves partnering up with the younger entrepreneurs and helping them. So once it was a younger kid, and then especially when Damon started his story of saying it reminded him a lot of himself, it really felt like the setup of Damon making this kid an offer. So I was kind of surprised about that, but I guess he can't. I think if Damon offered to every younger entrepreneur that came in there with drive and a dream, Damon might be overwhelmed with people. But so that did surprise me, so I'll say it. I've also seen some people saying he was really cocky or rude with Kevin and talking about his attitude. I personally did not get those sort of vibes from him. I did feel like he was very firm in his stance of what he was willing to give and didn't have a lot of wiggle room, which I'm never a fan of. But I wouldn't say that that's cocky or rude necessarily. I would just say it's not a good strategy for getting a deal on Shark Tank. But I saw multiple people saying that, and I'm just kind of I don't really get that vibe. So I'd love to know if you watched it and you got that vibe. Very interested to hear from other people. I just kind of felt like he knew what he wanted to do. And that's fine. I don't agree with it, but if you know what you want to do, you do it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think he's going to continue to do fine. There's an argument to be made that maybe he would have grown a lot faster with Kevin, but who's to say if that would have been good or not? I think if he just continues to do what he's doing, blowing it up with his certain audience, making a name for himself with that community, he'll be fine and do well. Our third pitch of the night is Sugardoh. Aaliyah walked into the tank looking for $500,000 for 5% of her at-home sugar wax hair removal kit. Here it is. If you're not familiar with sugar waxing, it's pretty much a paste substance that you warm up, you spread it across your body, rip it off, and it's just another form of hair removal. Once again, they did not give us the cost breakdown of this, which, why? Editors, why would you ever leave that out? The things you cannot leave out. The cost breakdown. Some form of cost breakdown. I don't care what it is. They're all going to be some form of cost breakdown. If they're profitable or not, and some form of sales. These are the three things that have to be in pitches, in my opinion, and when they're not, it drives me absolutely bananas. However, I will say, I'm pretty sure in the video the other day, I said that they did not tell us a cost breakdown, and then my mom corrected me, and I'm going to be super honest because my memory is terrible. I don't even remember which it is. So if I missed it, I take what I said back. I mean, I don't take what I said back because it is still the truth, but I'm not upset with you Shark Tank editors about this one, if it's in there. But I don't have it in my notes, so I don't think it happened, and I wrote wasn't discussed, so who's right? Probably me. Anyway, tangent over. So I looked up how much it costs. The starter kit that you can get, which has like the wax and some other stuff in it, is $68. Then if you want to get the paste by itself, they have two different sizes, a mini, which is $20, and a big, which is $32. I have no idea what it costs them to make these products, but that's how much we're looking at cost-wise for your informational purposes.
So now would be a good time to tell us a little about sales.
Sales! Sales!
She started the business in September of 2020, and at the end of 2020, they had done $50,000 in sales. 2021, they went viral on TikTok and made $2.6 million in sales, and last year, they had $5.6 million in sales. Now, I want you to take that excitement and absolutely squash it, because no, unfortunately, we do not have a profitable company, and not even just not profitable, it's like bad news bears, guys. Bad times. On the $5.6 million they made last year, they lost 77%, which is a little less than $440,000.
How's that possible?
She talks about the reason for this is that they learned the hard way that they needed to increase their margins. Their margins weren't very high and they were losing money that way. Okay. Something that like maybe we could bounce back from. Except to make up for the loss, number one, her and her husband invested $400,000 of their own money to help cover that loss. And on top of that, they have $1.5 million in debt. And their debt financing is at a 22% interest rate. Also, they have $1 million of inventory. So these numbers are crushing, just completely crushing. And honestly, it is the majority of this pitch. Not a lot else happens because this information is just, I mean, like, what do you do with it? Really, the only talking outside of the numbers we get is Kevin, being the shark that knows a little bit about everything, pointing out that this has been around since the Phoenician times. This isn't something that's proprietary, so how are we getting the 10 million valuation? Mind you, he does ask this before we really get into, like, the numbers. So it's like, at the end of the day, that's, like, the least of everybody's concern of, like, how did we get to the 10 million? But before we get to that is his question of how we got to 10 million. But to just give you a full picture of everything, she answers it by talking about how they have their own proprietary manufacturing process along with their own unique formula. And that's what sets them apart. The manufacturing process is the big thing she was kind of selling as their differentiating point. Mark is our first shark up to bat with the avalanche of people going out that's about to happen. Spoiler alert. He talks about that. Obviously, they're all kind of in a hard position trying to invest with this, with the debt she has and all of that. Aside from that, this isn't really his expertise anyway, so he goes out. Kevin's real issue is not necessarily her valuation. He does think it's too high, but his big sticking point is the amount of money she asked for. He says if she had asked for a lower amount, he might have, manipulated some with a negotiation, trying to change the valuation. But because of the amount of money she's asked for, it's just too much of a risk, and he's out. Damon gives similar sentiments that all the other sharks give, also pointing out that it would be forever to get his money back. Again, giving us another great Kevin line.
You'd be older than the Phoenicians that invented this by the time you got your money back.
Kendra then starts a speech for going out, saying that Aaliyah is amazing, but she has the same issues all the other sharks have already brought up. And as she's about to go out, Aaliyah tries to stop her, being like, I really want to make a deal. I'm willing to negotiate. And my favorite line she says is, y'all love problems, which all sharks immediately are like, I don't think we love problems. Like, she's trying to say they love to solve problems, but that was not the quote. Fantastic. Hilarious. However, Aaliyah's pleas do not sway Kendra, and she goes out. And lastly, we have Lori going out, saying her biggest worry is how competitive the market is. And with that, Aaliyah unfortunately leaves the tank without a deal. So I feel like this pitch is the perfect example and should be shown to future entrepreneurs who are trying to start businesses how growing a business too fast can actually lead to just a whole host of problems that end up making things much, much worse. I just feel like this should be the example people look at when they just want to speed run companies for nonsense reasons. I do want to caveat that by saying, like, I don't know her circumstances. I get she blew up on TikTok, blah, blah, blah. I'm not, like, judging her. I'm more talking to the people who purposely do it. And maybe she did. I just literally don't know. So I'm not speaking on her, but just speed running companies isn't always the best idea. Proof. As far as the sharks go, I'm not surprised. None of them decided to make an offer. Once we really got into the nitty-gritty of the debt and everything, it just really was completely dead in the water. I mean, the money she's asking for is pretty much just, like, covering interest on her debt. Like, it's just a money pit at this point, and it's not really something the sharks do. And to be completely, like, transparently honest, I'm surprised they let her make it this far in the casting process. I feel like most people know this, but, like, it's not like they just let anybody walk up in there and pitch to them. There's, like, rounds and rounds of auditioning, and I just don't understand how she got this far, and it's just baffling to me. From the reviews I could see on Ulta and some other places, it seemed like people do generally like this. I've never tried the at-home sugaring stuff. I've only used things like Nair or shaving because I'm lazy and boring. I have looked at the sugar stuff before. I'm just worried that I won't be able to figure out how to use it, and then I'll waste money. I'm just gonna be super honest about it. But the reviews seemed very positive, made me almost want to try it. And at the end of the day, I really just hope, if it's as good as a product as I've seen some people say it is, that she can figure out a way to get around this just what I'm sure feels like insurmountable amount of debt to be able to turn this company around and make it a good business for her future and all that. I wish her nothing but the best. Definitely one I'm going to watch and just see where it ends up going. Our fourth and final pitch of the night is Doatnut. Kimmy walked into the tank looking for $100,000 for 10% of her healthier donuts. Here's what they look like. They don't have dairy, gluten. They have low sugar that's all naturally occurring, and they can count the ingredients on one hand.
These actually don't taste like I'm amazed.
So like I said, they can count the ingredients on one hand. It is 5 ingredients: oats, egg whites, monk fruit, sweet potatoes, and baking powder. She also says they're only 90 calories, and their main magic ingredient is the fact that they use what are called groats, which is pretty much just an oat in its purest form. It's when it's picked before anything has happened to it. She has those shipped to her, and then she mills them herself into oat flour. She sells them out of her own retail space that she has and also ships them. To make one of her Doatnuts is 70 to 80 cents, and then she retails them for $3.50. I am not sure exactly how long they've been in business, but she tells us her lifetime sales are $350,000 and her year-to-date sales are $50,000. We do not get profitability, that is all we get. The main question she gets from the sharks is how she's going to expand this. Like I said, she is mostly selling out of that retail store, and she says that's why she's here. She wants to figure that out, but it doesn't seem like she necessarily has a plan and needs help executing it. She's kind of in the realm of like, I don't know. I know it's what I need to do, but I'm not really sure how. And with the numbers she had and these kind of answers, you can imagine where things start to go. First, we have Kevin, who says that he likes the product and he'll definitely be a customer, but the sales aren't impressive, and he's worried that she doesn't really have a plan for scaling the business, so he's out. Then Damon jumps in to say this isn't really his wheelhouse and that there are other sharks up there that would be able to help her more, so he is out. Then we have Kendra, who, like Kevin, completely loves her and the product, but like Damon, doesn't have any expertise in this area, so unfortunately she is also out. However, not all hope is lost, because my personal favorite dynamic duo is back at it again. They were having a little chit chat off to the side while people were going out, and they have some things they'd like to say. So first we have Mark just asking, reasonable questions like, do they have any debt? She says yes, $70,000, but that's it. They're kind of, having a reasonable talk about these sort of things. And Lori jumps in to be like, before Mark says anything else, I just need you to know, I love this. I am all about it. She is clearly on the edge of her seat, ready to make a deal. And it's so funny because then she's like, so we have an offer, Mark. I like that she still passed it back to Mark because she wanted him to make the offer, I guess, but just like reined it in to hurry it up. Hilarious, classic Lori behavior. Never changed. Love to see it. During her professing how much she loves the idea and the product, she also gives us just such a funny classic Lori line. Again, never change.
I haven't eaten a donut from a normal store in 20 years. Like, I don't eat donuts. No offense, donut community.
And together, the pair end up offering her $150,000 for 30% of the company. She tries to do a little counter of 20%. They aren't willing to go down in equity, but they say they will go up in the amount of money they'll give, and they offer $200,000 also as a way to help her pay off that debt she has, and she makes a deal of $200,000 for 30% with Lori and Mark. So for me personally, I love donuts, and why I like them is because they're like a little treat. I love just getting a little chocolate donut or a glazed donut. So this is definitely, I'm not the market for this. If I'm going to have a little treat, I'm just going to have a little treat. I'm probably not going to have the healthier version of this, but I can see the aspect of people who need a different version of this, especially the gluten-free, non-dairy folks, like people with allergies or just people with food preferences. Definitely can see that market. And I, for one, was shocked that she was only selling them at $3.50. All the sharks even said, oh, you should be selling it for $5. But I'm proud of her for selling it for $3.50, and I hope it has stayed that way, because so much food like this that's accessible to people with allergies or whatever is always crazy expensive for no reason sometimes. So I applaud her on that one if she's kept it that way. Then I went to go look at the reviews because I saw somebody on the Reddit thread being like, did y'all see the Yelp reviews? Because it just seems completely different from what the sharks experienced. And I mostly saw positive reviews on Google reviews and Yelp. So I'm not 100% sure what that person was talking about. I did see a couple bad reviews, but that's just kind of how all food places are. My favorite bad review came from Google reviews, and I will now read it. It was closed. ... We'll have to check their hours of operations and go when open. Hilarious. I love when people leave reviews like that. Just so funny, but also don't do this. Don't leave a bad review because you went somewhere and it wasn't open. That's docking their points for no reason. But hilarious on my end since it doesn't affect me. But seriously, what? Not open when I went. Might be their hours, but I wanted to go then, so bad. 1 star. I can't anyway. Overall, though, I personally didn't get a lot of wow factor from this one, but apparently Lori and Mark did, because even at the end, after they had made the deal and they were kind of talking to the other sharks in the ending clip, Mark was saying this could be one of their biggest deals yet. So they clearly see a path for growth with this. Right now, they're only shipping 2 different flavors, so I'm not honestly willing to try them and spend my own money right now because, number one, it's a savory donut and a sweet donut, and I don't believe in savory donuts. You can argue with me all you want, that's fine, I don't care. I eat only donuts that are sweet, and I wouldn't be able to try a couple flavors, so this isn't something I'm willing to try yet. I personally could see Mark and Lori really being able to help if she could figure out how to get this into like a frozen or a freezer section. At the moment, that doesn't seem super possible because she's doing a lot of it like fresh right there. But I wonder if that's the path Lori and Mark might be seeing. That was huge. Or maybe opening more stores. Who knows? I truly don't know. Like, Lori and Mark saw something really big. I don't. It seemed like a fine product to me. It seemed fine. Whatever, but they saw something huge in this, so this is definitely going to be one to watch. And my final one little note that is silly, but I have to say it. I didn't realize until I was starting to try to look into reviews for this company that the full name of the company is Kimmy Gets Skinny Doatnuts. I just think that's so silly, and I think the name should change. Maybe other people like it. I hate names like that though, but you know, other than that, it just seemed like a fine product. I liked the price point. I get it, especially as somebody who's had to eat not dairy and gluten-free for different reasons at different points in my life. Like, it is so great to have options that taste good, that fit into those categories. So it'd be very interesting if this was affordable and tastes as good as the sharks were saying. So 100% one to watch for the future. And that is a wrap on Shark Tank Season 16, Episode 3. Overall, I thought it was a fun episode. Some good businesses, some good banter. I got a personal redemption arc for Kendra. She is back on my, one to watch, maybe a likable guest shark list. So overall, good episode. I had a lot of fun. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. It means a lot to me. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you like this sort of content, Shark Tank recaps, other reality TV. And as always, I want to hear your thoughts, feelings, opinions, comments. Have you tried any of the Shark Tank products? Are you gonna try them? How do you feel about Kendra Scott as a guest shark? Let me know all that and more down below. And until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.